Pause. As long as you got them little high heels on, it's on.
I've been on it. I think about you all the time. Can't get you off my mind.
The celebrity names coming out of the Diddy sex trafficking trial are what's trending in true crime this morning. Welcome back. Rapper Kid Cudi is expected to be called as a witness. He could take the stand as early as today. Last week, Diddy's ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura testified to having a short relationship with Cudi, but not wanting to tell Combs about it because he had a temper. Combs allegedly then had Cudi's car blown up. During Tuesday's testimony, some other famous names came up. We heard the name Suge Knight. We heard about Trump Hotel. Diddy's former assistant testifying about Diddy riding around with guns, searching for Suge Knight. And Combs' favorite hotel for freak-offs was the Trump International Hotel. All right, so with so many famous names coming up, our question this morning, how do you prosecute a high-profile defendant like Diddy? Well, here to provide us with some very unique perspective, trial attorney and superstar, former prosecutor Stewart Ryan, who prosecuted and put away Bill Cosby. And I got to watch that trial and see what a fabulous job Stu and his client, his colleagues did with that. So thank you so much for coming on the show, Stu. Always a pleasure to have you here. Harken back to your time, you and your colleagues from the DA's office in Montgomery County handling a case that the world was interested in. What is that like?
Thank you, Julie. It's always good to be here with you. Yeah, so look, as much as you want to try and focus and treat this like every other case that you're handling, it's just simply impossible to do that. You understand that the national, and in my case, in this case, international microscope are on you. And so that ends up leading you down a couple different paths. I mean, number one, you're wanting to make sure, understanding that this is being scrutinized, that every T is crossed, every I is dotted, that if you're successful with securing a guilty verdict, you know it's going to be up on appeal, and wanting to make sure that everything's being done correctly. You know, and I think in this sort of a case in particular, like in Cosby, there's also sort of something overlaying it that isn't necessarily said out loud, which is that it's not just that the world is watching, but it's that the world of survivors is watching. And so there's, you know, in a sense, an important emotional burden with wanting to make sure that justice is served in this sort of a case, because as your prior guest mentioned, you know, it's the courage of individuals that are going to testify in a case like this that are going to empower future survivors of abuse and assault to feel comfortable coming forward. And so that's, you know, a very real element of handling any sort of a high profile case, but especially one involving allegations of domestic violence and sexual abuse like this one.
Stu, you're so right. You give me chills when you said that about the world of survivors watching. And as you know, and as I know only because I was there and I saw them, and I want our viewers to know, while Bill Cosby's trial was going on inside of the courthouse, outside there were groups, there were factions. You know, of course there were Cosby supporters, but there was an enormous group of other survivors, other accusers who were not part of the case, but were just there to support each other. It would almost, it kind of felt like a therapeutic and, you know, almost like cathartic experience for them as they were supporting Andrea Constand and the other witnesses and accusers who testified. This is some video. I remember it like it was yesterday. Stu, what was that like also, as those people were looking to you as one of the Cosby prosecutors to help them get some validation?
Yeah, you know, I mentioned before, there's almost like this emotional burden to it, but it's not, I don't mean that in a negative way that you're carrying something. It's almost like it's fuel to push you forward, to know that you're not just speaking on behalf of your community, which in my case was Montgomery County. You're not just speaking on behalf of the survivor that is, you know, the principal alleged victim in the case. You are speaking on behalf of so many other people, both known and unknown. And for me anyway, that really kind of pushed me forward and gave me the extra energy to deal with all the sort of outside noise that you're dealing with when you have a high-profile defendant.
Sure. And, you know, now you're in the private sector, Stu, and I'm curious, if you had to give some advice to these federal prosecutors handling Diddy's case. And we've seen some similarities. I noticed in opening statements what I remember you all doing, saying, the guy you think you know essentially is not that guy. You all had noted that for your jury in the Cosby case, and these government attorneys are noting it for the Diddy jury. What advice might you lend to these federal prosecutors in handling the pressure and navigating what they're tasked with proving?
Yeah, I think contrasting that public image versus the private image is really, really important. And there are actually some interesting similarities. I think this video that the jury's already seen of the incident in the elevator lobby of the hotel is really, really powerful evidence. And that's something that you can point to the jury and say, look, everybody knows what this public image might be, but we're not here to judge what this person is doing in public, but rather what this person is doing when he thinks no one else is watching. And that video, I think, speaks loudly as to what he was doing in what he thought was private, and feeds really well into the fraud, coercion, and force elements that the government's going to need to prove in terms of the trafficking claims. And then there's also, so many other sort of elements that seem like around the edges, like the fact that this guy settles a lawsuit for a tremendous amount of money. The defense opened up by saying that there are going to be individuals that testify that have active civil lawsuits against P. Diddy, and how many millions of reasons do they have to fabricate their testimony? Well, that's really a double-edged sword, and we had it in Cosby as well. There was a civil lawsuit there, and he paid money in order to what he thought was shut down the victim, survivor in that case. But here, the counter to what the defense is saying is, well, P. Diddy has at least 20 million reasons to not want the jury to hear Cassie's testimony in this case. And so really focusing in on, the private conduct is really, really important.
This is such a valuable insight you're sharing with us, Stu. Tell me, if you were on the defense side of things, taking some of the experiences and lessons learned, going through your time in the prosecutor's office, serving there, and in particular with Cosby's case, 2 of them, not 1 but 2 trials you tried. Tell me, what advice would you have for Diddy's lawyers as they're navigating this case?
Scorched earth is not the way to go. Victim shaming, victim attacking, that's not going to get you anywhere. You need to be attacking the elements. You need to be treating people with respect, because if you have a misstep on that front, ultimately the jury's going to hold it against your client.
A great point. Stewart Ryan, we love having you on the program. Come back again soon, please. We'll have you do some legal analysis on some other cases. I know you're busy, but we'd love to have you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Julie.
Still to come here on Opening Statements.